Good morning, everyone. This is the Kubeflow SDK and ML Experience Working Group community call on 10th of September. This meeting will be recorded and published on YouTube, and as always, we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct. So just before we kick off the call and talk about exciting things, do we have any new people here on the call who just want to introduce themselves? Just want to say hello to the community.
Hello, I'm Matt Prale. I'm a Kubeflow Pipelines maintainer. I'm from Red Hat, and it's good to meet some of you for the first time, and others I know pretty well.
Thanks, man.
Hello, I'm Jian, and I'm a software engineer at Machinerox, which is the startup in the South Korea. I've been actively contribute to Katip project. So I've been Kubeflow member a few years ago, but uh, I've been out of Kubeflow for a while. But I have some Kubeflow related project in my startup. So I like to contribute to this project again. Yeah, that's why I joined this meeting. Nice to meet you.
Yes, great. Thank you, John. Like I haven't seen you for I think almost 2 years. It's been a
Yeah,
long time.
maybe over than 2 years. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely would love to, again, restart our development work with Katip and other projects because I think we're going on for Cloud API. So super happy to see you here. Um, Anyone else want to say hello? All right, so I guess then we can maybe get started. So let me share my screen. So I think we have a few topics today to talk about. I know, Shehar, you on the call. I think last time you didn't attend this meeting, but do you want us to talk about Spark Client? Because I think we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. Um, and we kind of like skip the items in the agenda. Mm. Yeah, Shehar, if you can you hear us? If you're talking, we can't hear you. Um, Right. Otherwise, let me maybe, yeah, feel free to, use the chat or, we can maybe talk about it, this topic if you have time. Otherwise, we can just go through other agenda items. All right. So I think, so yeah, also Databricks, I think Tirash, I think this will be next week, right? If I understand correctly. And I think we've been talking about this, the Databricks and Kubeflow part.
Yeah, I don't know if Diraj is here.
All right, all right.
No,
Yes,
he's
I think,
not.
yeah. So there are a few topics. I think maybe should we start probably with the release because I think this is the most kind of important one. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. So I think like we're kind of like almost ready with the release. I know we have like one very big PR for local execution, and we definitely like I would love folks to help us with review because I think Sat he's doing an amazing job here. I just want more people to take a look at these changes so we can merge it ASAP and cut the release. Overall, I think it looks good. We just need to have time to finally have a final review here, right? Any questions for this? Like, maybe any suggestions how we want to move forward with the local execution?
No, no suggestions, but just overall, I would appreciate folks' reviews on this PR, and then the other PR we created for automated release process for Kubeflow SDK. Yeah, we need more folks to review those PRs.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I think like the release also almost ready. I think it should be very straightforward. So I think like we have a lot of other features coming in. We definitely can include them in the next release. I think like the last time we discussed and also in the trainer calls we discussed it. Probably we just want to have something initially. Uh, just release the 0.1 version. We can even have a RC candidate, release candidate 0 next week sometime. And then like if we maybe run this for maybe 2 weeks and then release the official version. Do we want to go through like RC process for SDK? Like, do you find this useful?
RC process meaning publishing release candidate?
Yeah. This is what we do for like other projects. Like we're publishing RCs, publishing them to PyPy, and then we make some test them, and then release them in maybe 2 weeks once RC is ready. We don't see any bugs here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And we can still do that with the CI jobs that
Yep.
we're developing.
Yeah, I think we kind of like yeah, good.
Just a quick question. We publish RC to PyPy, not test PyPy, right?
Yep. Yeah. I think this is what we've done before. And I think for Pipe, it also support pre-releases. So we can do something like 0.1.0 RC0. So I think this is the format we should use. And this will be treated as a release candidate. Yep.
Yep.
So
Sounds good.
you probably need to double check if like your script actually supports RCs, right?
I have
RC12.
tested that. Yeah, that works.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, I guess like any other changes or features we want to have for 0.1.
I didn't think from those PRs, no, but I have created the issues recently regarding annotations and labels, and then as well as namespace training runtime rate. I don't think that they should go into release 0.1, but I would appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yep, I think that makes sense. I think supporting namespace running runtime, definitely this is something we want to support in SDK. And we just need to design the experience like how users can switch between the cluster scope runtimes and namespace scope runtimes. But yeah, for more flexibility, I think that makes sense to support them. And
Yeah.
for labels, yes, I think we also have discussion around experience. Yeah, I think for 0.1, like, having these features being there and would be a great first release for us, I think. And then eventually, I think we discussed it last time, but we can have more frequent release cadence for, SDK. We can maybe release something in October for 0.2 if we want to, right?
Yep, sounds great.
Right.
So I'm hoping that we will finalize those PRs by the end of this week and then release RC next week, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. Sathi is not here on the call, but I'm planning to, have more comments on the local execution mode, and then, we can just finalize this and push it upstream.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to briefly mention that I've created some Git first issues in the Kubeflow SDK. So if there are any people that would like to contribute to Kubeflow SDK, please take a look, and we'll appreciate your contribution. Yeah, I have linked the.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You
No.
already linked right here. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, over there.
All right. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah. So again, the first release, we should not be perfect. And I think we kind of like, we're okay probably to tolerate breaking changes. I mean, we definitely, we need to kind of think about API structure for the long term and probably like think about, whether we want to introduce any breaking changes so API needs to be changed. But eventually, like, we need to kind of design the release schedule for the SDK, right? And what's going to like how we're going to release it, like what clients we support, right? Our long term. I think we have a roadmap. We discussed it, I think, last time, right? But like, having the some sort of plan when we include more features to the next version may be helpful for users, right? To understand. Like for example, like in the 0.3 version or 0.2, we will include like, optimizer client, like something like this, right?
Just a quick question on that. Yeah, we've been discussing this before. What do you think about aligning Kubeflow SDK versioning with Kubeflow platform version release? Is there anything?
Yeah. I think this is what the question we discussed also, like once we propose it. I think the problem with that platform release is kind of more complex and require like a lot of work to do, working with distributions, working with every project, and then preparing the testing phase, and then releasing. So I think it takes like around 4 months to cut the AI reference platform releases.
Yeah.
And I think
Like 6
yeah.
months.
I think this is a good question. I think this is probably what we kind of expect when we merge more components to the SDK. Yeah, because if we say that this is the primary interface for all the components, like it might make sense to, like I just want to understand like what is the purpose of Kubeflow a reference platform releases, Kubeflow SDK releases, right, and also the components releases. So there are definitely a lot of things we should talk about with the broader community here.
Yeah. Or maybe Kubeflow platform could align with Kubeflow SDK releases.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of like expect that, like especially with local mode, right? Kubeflow SDK will be much more lightweight. And if you kind of say you can run, Kubeflow locally very quickly and just, have some sort of value of components we deploy, you don't really need to have this, this baggage of entire, like Istio, Cert Manager, KSOR pipelines, right, and other things, right? You can just run everything locally, right? And I think I see value of this as well. Like, if we support more features to the local execution mode. Yeah, but I think this is definitely we should, talk about, and especially from the user side perspective, right? All right. Okay, then I guess maybe we can talk about the KFP integration, right? So Matt, do you want to give a short overview
Yeah.
for like what we've been talking about? Yeah.
Yeah,
Under
yeah.
just sorry, just
Yeah, yeah.
before moving to our next topic, my only suggestion when I'm seeing the supported Kubeflow projects in the SDK, maybe you should add in the README the version that you are supporting this for each component.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. I
At
think
least you can have a compatibility metric somewhere, to people know on this. Yeah.
we don't have it here, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will update that before publishing Kubeflow SDK to PyPy. That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we discussed it in the what is it? In the docs, sorry, in the proposal before. Having the version of trainer will make sense. Yeah, I think the problem is like, is it aligned to the modules, right? Or is it aligned to the version of trainer we publish, right? Uh, because the problem is sometimes when they release a new version of trainer, you can still use the old version of SDK, right? If we don't really introduce any breaking changes. All right. So
Yes, but we need at least a list of which versions that works with SDK, I would say. And I
yeah, maybe.
agree with Andre and yeah, to don't tie with the platform releases because this will make everything
Yeah.
slow. Maybe in future we can have, as soon as they do a platform release, we can put in the README a specific version that is tied with that platform release to people know which one they should use in the README. But we can do smaller releases faster, I would say, without tying.
Yeah, it makes sense. And we can also, add the releases, for example, like we support trainer,
Yeah.
more than 2.1, for example, right?
Exactly.
0, right? At least this one, right? Yeah, because again, I think the value of SDK again to allow people for more flexibility. I think this is what we discussed in this proposal. Like for example, if people don't use trainer but use Kubeflow pipelines, they can still use Kubeflow SDK. But maybe if they just want to use trainer but don't want to use the KFP, they have this still capability to use the client. This is like the main goal of separation between clients. So we have like the client per project. So users can interact with this specific client when they want to submit their jobs, right? This was one of the primary goals of this, flexibility in SDK, right? Yeah, but maybe for the short term, let's just maybe include this, version for trainer we support. Yeah, and see how it how it goes. All right. Anything else before we jump to next topic? All right. So yeah, go for it, Mike. Do you want to share your screen or?
Yeah, please.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not letting me, Sharon. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it should be able.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So for context, the goal really is that I'm thinking about if the user starts out writing a pipeline in Kubeflow pipelines and they want to start using the trainer, it's a very different user experience. And so I'm trying to make it so that it's an easy transition. So perhaps they've already written their training code to work on like a single node in KFP. But if they're going to they need distributed multiple nodes, then that becomes a barrier. They have to learn a new technology, etc. And so uh, what I'm proposing here is kind of making it easier for KFP concepts to apply to the trainer concepts. So if you're not familiar with KFP, you define, I'll make this a little bigger. You define your pipeline steps as components, and then you stitch them together inside of a pipeline function. So in this case, I just have a very simple pipeline. It's preparing the data set, and then it passes that data set as input to the training step. So on a normal KFP component, if you want to set like CPU request, memory request, or number of GPUs, you just set them on the component after you call it with your input parameters. And you can mount things like secrets as environment variables or as volumes, PVCs, etc. And so one of the issues that users come across is that if their component is simply just launching some other Kubernetes, like creating some other Kubernetes object, such as like a train job or a Spark job or something like that, and they want to bump up the memory or CPU or number of GPUs, they'll set it here, but it only applies to the KFP pod that submits the Kubernetes object. It doesn't actually apply to the underlying workload. And so my goal here is to be able to translate the user's intent from here and be able to pass that on to like a train job. And so I recently added a feature in KFP. It hasn't been released yet, but you can configure essentially like which Kubernetes configurations apply to the workload that is like the train job or something else, another Kubernetes job, and what applies to the actual KFP step. And so in this case, we're saying that resources like CPU, memory, GPU don't apply that to the KFP pod because that's just launching some other object and monitoring it. But for environment variables and PVCs, volumes and stuff, we want that to apply to both. And then the stuff and all of that configuration is available in this input parameter of type DSL task config. So that way I know the resources, tolerations, node selectors, volumes, environment variables that the user set on the task. And now I can translate that to something like Kubeflow trainer, train job. So I'll just show real quick the code. So like pretend like you have a train model function embedded inside of the component. You're doing some preparation where you have like a PVC mounted that you want to share with the train job. And so the input data set that came from a previous step, you want to put that on the PVC for the train job. And then you're just essentially passing in like the training function, the runtime, number of nodes, packages to install at runtime, and then the Kubernetes configuration that was set on the KFP component, and then any sort of arguments and stuff like that, keyword arguments that get passed along. So most of this functionality actually exists today that I can use the Kubeflow SDK directly. Some of the things I'm encountering though is that pod spec overrides aren't available as an option in the Kubeflow SDK. They're only available in the CRD. And so I've had to resort to creating the Kubernetes object directly using the Kubernetes client. So that's something that would be nice. And then like having like some sort of ability to like patch the train job that gets generated by the SDK. So that way, if there's a new CRD field that's added, but the SDK doesn't support it, I have some escape valve to still set that and not have to fall back to just not using the SDK entirely. This was just kind of a nice to have of like, rather than just rely on an auto-generated name for the train job, it could be nice to optionally set the name. In the KFP case, like we could have some helper utilities that is essentially the train job is just like KFP dash whatever the KFP run ID is, so you can easily identify it. One of the issues that we have with KFP launching a train job is that you click in the UI on the pod logs for the KFP step, and you're not seeing the logs of the train job. You're just seeing something that's polling the train job. So it'd be nice if we could have the ability to stream logs in the background of the main worker of the train job. Optionally, like being able to like have a high level function that I can like similar to this, where I can submit the train job and just pass in all of my arguments here. And I think it's mostly there today. And then other things I ran into is just because I was running it on OpenShift and it doesn't allow root containers by default. is that, if we can focus more on using like the user flag for pip installs and stuff, and then the home directory have it be some writable location. So I think the main thing I would really want is the ability for pod spec overrides to be set, and having a native way to like stream the logs in the background in the Kubeflow SDK. Those are kind of the two main things, and the rest we would do on the KFP side. Does that make sense? Any questions? I know that was a lot of context, but
Yeah, I have a few things to talk about, but anything else want to chat? Want to say something?
Regarding pod spec overrides, I think that was in our plan, right, for Kubeflow SDK, to expose this parameter while train API. Is that right?
Yeah, this is what we need to talk about, right? I guess like the initial goal of pod spec overrides when we discussed the design with Yuki and other folks was that sometimes users wants to change the pod spec on every train job submission, and this usually pod spec doesn't really correlate with kind of like ML specific parameters. Like for example, like volumes, right? We can assume that users don't know what is volumes. Similar to node selectors, image pool secrets. We can assume users don't know anything about it, right? They probably just know about their PyTorch function and how many GPUs they want to use to scale this function. That's it, right? And but for at the same times, we still need to give this flexibility for people to override. And I think like there are some ways how pod spec overrides can be used. Like for example, you can create a mutation webhook which kind of like take your train job and append some values on behalf of the user when train jobs is submission. This is the one way how users of trainer can use a spot spec override. Another way it could be kind of some sort of plugin via like an environment variable that's been preset by platform admins. So usually kind of pod spec override is not something which we initially was thinking about to expose to the AI practitioners because it's too kind of Kubernetes specific, if that makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, in KFP, it's like we expose the guts of Kubernetes if you have to, which is, I guess, arguable if that's a good thing or not. But it'd be nice if, like, the fact that we do choose to expose some of these Kubernetes configurations, that we could set them at train job submission time. And so it works very well, actually, the pod spec overrides. I'm very happy with it. It's just that I'd rather have leverage the SDK natively rather than having to use the Kubernetes client.
But from my understanding, the main problem is volumes, right? Anything else is already supported.
Uh, Node selectors, volumes, tolerations, I think. Maybe some of those are already there. I can check actually, because I have like some sample code of a proof of concept.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
what would be like, go ahead.
so it seems like it's volumes, node selectors, and tolerations. The rest I can use because the resources per node maps well, environment variables map well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much
I
it.
kind of like curious. So tolerations and node selectors, right? They kind of like usually correlates to scheduling directives, right? Why users of KFP should be worried about those things?
It's because we don't have an abstraction layer currently to essentially pick like a flavor or a size of a node. And so unfortunately, there's no abstraction layer. The user just has to be aware of the environment that they're in. We want to improve that, obviously, but we kind of want to support this case as well, if possible, through pod spec overrides on the trainer.
Yeah, because like for example, if you use Q, right, KQ, right, it's kind of like a Q responsibility to set all those values, right? And I understand like different customers and different users do use different scheduling capabilities within Kubernetes, right? So again, I don't think we should kind of really expose this to the ML users. I think we should find an abstraction like similar to I know KFP was working on workspace idea, right? How I can attach the workspace to my pipeline, and then this workspace will be reused across all of my steps within the pipeline. So maybe we can think about something similar on the train API, right? Um, yeah, so those can be used within train. So I think maybe I know you have the submit train job function, right, Matt? Like in your
Yes. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe
so
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I think I could probably live with if there's the ability to just specify the volumes. That's probably the big thing. And we could rely on node selectors and tolerations coming from the runtime. But the volumes, I think, would be key for KFP to be usable with the train job, because that's how you would connect outputs from previous
Yeah.
steps to the train job.
It's kind of like something you want to attach the workspace to my train job, right? We would.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm,
Exactly. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, I think attaching the workspace to the train job will make sense. I think the question is like we gonna have initializers and the trainer, and like maybe users want to attach workspace to the only trainer to the initializer. Maybe initially we can attach the workspace to my entire train job, right? And maybe make it part of the train API, right? And then behind the scenes we will specify the volumes and do XYZ. Um, yeah. So, so
Yeah. I think for
maybe,
now, like, oh, go ahead.
maybe a good exercise would be to take a train API, existing train API, and see what is kind of missing there compared to submit train job, right? And then we can think about, what should be the arguments we want to introduce, right, to the train API. Yeah, because like other approach we can go like, whether some environment variables will be preset, some sort of, and then we will inject this to the every train job, right? Will be kind of preset by the platform admins. Yeah, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
sorry, I was on mute. But
Yeah.
I think like the easy thing would just be like if pod spec overrides was available and optional as just like something you could set, because I think it's never a bad thing to give more choice to the user, in my opinion. It's just maybe something we don't suggest you do. It's kind of like a last resort thing. But then on the KFP side, we can easily translate like the KFP workspace. We translate that to the pod spec overrides that come to the train job. So that would be like a KFP SDK translation that happens. Um,
Mhm. I kind of
yeah,
like think even outside of KFP concept, right? Like the workspace idea might be useful for train job submission. Because like imagine like you have a notebook, like you have, Kubeflow notebook or any notebook you run on the cloud, and I want to attach the same workspace to my train job, right? The same PVC. And then like, when the job is submitted, we just pass the workspace name or something else, right? To the
yeah,
I think it might be tricky because when users require more flexibility, we need to think about what we want to expose to the train API, right? So um, yeah, I think like one thing I don't really want to have if we introduce this post spec override that people will just tie to it, right? And then it will become too complex because they will use it everywhere, and then we will not give them the best experience, right? Uh, because like especially new users, right? Like the question is how to find flexibility and at the same time, be easy to use, right? Um, yeah, go ahead, Sat.
Hello, guys. Sorry for joining late, but I just had a meeting here at work. So for podspec override and Kubernetes level APIs, would it make sense to support in the train job something called options? And this option will be like Golang style options, like with volume, with X, with Y, and that would take the trainer CRD and maybe update that field. So if you know what you're doing, you can just do this. Then we'll just like validate the trainer CRD before submitting and then let it go. It won't look Kubernetes style like thing, but it will be just like very simple minimal API that says you can just submit a list of options that will take trainer CRD as an input and will be executed on it to update the attributes of the trainer CRD. That could be annotations, labels, and other things too. And it's only for people who require or need this knowledge. If you want, I can write like something about it in more details, and we'll see if it makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting idea. Like definitely, like we should if we provide more flexibility by options, maybe if people who are aware like of those specs, they can specify this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that will. Mhm.
I'd also be fine if like it's an undocumented behavior of like an environment variable that I can set in the and abstract that in the KFP side, or like the train job APIs accept like that star keyword args, and then this is just the one that it looks at if you're worried about like exposing that API.
Yeah. So I think definitely let's propose. So how we want to move forward? Like, do we want to create a cap for train API changes, or like, and maybe collaborate together to propose some ideas and suggestions? Like, what do you think?
I guess which API do you mean, like the SDK level or CRD level?
I think we can start with we can explore the existing CRDs and see if it's going to work on the Train API, and then maybe on the Train API we can start a cap to see how Train API should be improved, right, and propose some ideas there. I'm talking about like the SDK Train API because what I expect the Train API can be used within KFP component, natively, right? So
That would be the goal, yeah.
yeah. That makes
Essentially, like have KFP SDK just translate the.
yeah.
Let me find it.
Yeah, the submit train
Yeah,
submit train
yeah.
job.
Basically, just translate this DSL task config, which is a KFP concept, to how you apply that on the train job. That would be the only
Yeah.
thing, and then the rest of it, ideally, is just like native Kubeflow SDK usage after that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate you wanting to like have a really good user experience, but is there a way, like having a KEP and stuff like that will take a long time? Is there a way that we could kind of have the simple approach of like having a pod spec override, but then if, like improve
Yeah,
the
we
experience
can just
later?
yeah. Good set.
So another proposal, Matt, if you want an undocumented behavior or a nice way to slip like this pod spec override, you implement a different backend, which is based on the Kubernetes backend, but it's like more low level. That way you won't be able to use like the whole backend, but you will be able like to pass your own parameters and get this done. The other thing also could be, instead of having built-in trainer or custom trainer, we could have like Kubernetes trainer, which is called it Kubernetes trainer, where you pass the Kubernetes parameters and it just uses Kubernetes level, low level, like you know what you're doing. You provide
Yeah.
podspec override containers, whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think we have few options there. I think I mean, I agree, but probably we don't want to have this long cap process. Maybe if you want to propose directly some ideas in the issue, we can continue this. I just want to track it somewhere because I think like what Sad is proposing makes a lot of sense. And maybe we can just explore existing Train API and see how we can, extend it, right?
Yeah, one of the things I think I said before about the local trainer client as an example is that like we can call something alpha,
Yeah.
and like just release it early. In fact, like what I'll say is that compared to like other communities that we're engaging in, it's just a lot slower here to us make progress. Like in Llama Stack, we release every couple weeks, and like we're making some breaking changes, which isn't great user experience, but we're iterating a lot faster, and we don't write any caps.
Yeah. So I agree with you, Stefan, Francisco. So, I think again, if we okay to tolerate breaking changes, it's fine because it's not CRD. CRDs have much broader problems, right? If you're going to be live with Kubernetes, but I'm fine to reduce breaking changes to SDK for now. Yeah, go ahead, Anya.
Yeah, I just echo that it would be great to iterate faster without caps in itself. Another thought from Kubeflow SDK perspective, once we start working on the integration between KFB and Trainer SDK, would it make sense to migrate KFB to Kubeflow SDK and make it much easier?
Yeah, I'd definitely be open to it.
I think
Yeah.
this is what should be our goal, right? Like eventually, Matt. Like again, we should some time, and I know we want to spend time right now on KL, but we need to spend time to think about the end goal, right? For different clients and how they work together and how those concepts can be, reusable, like the concept of runtime, the concept of, optimization jobs. Like, for example, like I already been thinking about how maybe optimization client can only work with train jobs, right? And then how those things can work together, reusing the same APIs, right? So users will get the ideal experience, right? This is something definitely we should keep in mind.
I mean, for sure. I guess like I'll be like super blunt and say what I think, which is we should prioritize the user experience by like the most popular projects. Like and in the sense that like that's going to tell us what most of our target users are already using and how do we make their experience easier so we can grow the other projects that they're engaging in. I mean, KFP is our biggest project. Spark obviously is a massive project. Feast itself is a massive project. Obviously, that's complicated because we don't know how that's going to pan out, Andre. But like setting that aside, it's I would say just thematically we should start by like, hey, what's top of the list here, and I think like using KFP as a mechanism to grow the trainer, I think is a great strategy actually, and just making sure that the experience is really good for that. And I think if the KFP experience to execute the trainer is really good, we'll see the growth in the trainer. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I just want to give Feder like 15 minutes, but they want to say some last points on this.
Yeah, maybe the action items coming out of this is I can create a GitHub issue that's specifically targeting pod spec overrides discussion. And then another one is I wanted to, if the community is okay with me creating a PR to be able to stream the logs in the background,
Yeah,
like
with
having
weight.
that as a function. Yeah,
Mhm.
if you're good with that, I can submit a PR with that functionality.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I think like that makes sense. Like, and whether we can use follow or we can just directly do some wait for job status
Mhm.
API. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds good. I'll do that. Thank you for your time, everyone. It's good meeting you all and discussing.
Thank you, man. I think it's great again. Like as Francisco said, like it's super important for us to have KFP native integration. I think we should definitely push for it because KFP is the larger project right now which is being used within Kubeflow. So definitely looking forward to it. All right, Eder, so go ahead if you want to talk about
Yep.
the KL updates.
Yeah, Stefano is here for the first time as well. So we're here to talk about the Jupyter extension, the KO progress that we are doing in the community. My first point is just a quick, I mentioned this, but it's a new LinkedIn post that Amrit wrap up the GSOC work for this. And there's a blog post and the LinkedIn post here. If you are on the LinkedIn, please click on share for us to raise the community there. Do you want to talk next, Stefano? Oh, I'm not screen sharing. Yeah, someone stopping screen share. I can screen share. Yep.
Yeah, if you want to get an update on what we're doing,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Amrit's post is
Yep.
pretty well done. So have a look. On my side, I think I've spent a little bit of time cleaning up the backend, and there's a lot of deprecated old code that we don't want anymore. So there's a little bit of a cleanup to be done there. And I'll spend a little bit of time on working on an architecture document. I think, Heather, if you agree, that would be useful for anyone who wants to onboard.
For sure.
Maybe it's the stepping stone for a new documentation site as well. But starting with the Google Doc where we can also iterate and gather some feedback from Anna or William who are starting to look at the code, and maybe we'll have some say into how we talk about the architecture overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so those would be my immediate goal for the next couple of weeks.
Yep, and on my side, I'm helping onboard 2 new people. That's Hannah and William for KO. They're still in the call, right? Do you want to talk about Hannah, your experience onboarding?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. So yes, I using Amrit's README, I worked on installing Kale and I was taking notes along the way of things that worked and didn't work. And I ended up meeting with him and he got my setup to the point that he's at as well. So I do have Kale running. There were some things in the README that didn't totally line up with what we had to do. So I made that PR. It's linked right there, number 462, I think. And so it's still in draft because I'm just working on organizing it a little bit better. But I'm writing up what I had to do to get Kale to run. So hopefully that will help Will on board as well. I know he's starting to work on it, but he hasn't gotten it running yet, I don't think. But we'll keep working on that. And once we have it running, we will start on those couple tickets that you linked there for us as well. So I did just have one question. I saw, Stefano, you had suggested we should merge that front end branch into main so we can start opening the PRs right on main. I don't know if that's something the group wants to do. So that's my only question. Any questions?
Heather, I think it was your proposal maybe to start opening PRs against
Yes,
the
yeah.
fronted branch. So up to you. But based on what was your plan there, felt like it was easier to move everything to main and start opening PRs to
Yep.
main, since we don't have an active release yet. It's just a dev
Yeah.
branch at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So
if we are three here, I believe, and also William. Don't know if you have any constraints here on this, William. I can send up a request to merge the front end branch to me.
It sounds fine to me.
Yeah, we created that front end branching just for the context of everyone when we're working with Amrit. We created that front end branch to isolate the backend changes that Stefan that he is doing and just to make easy to Stefan review. So this would be a nice next step. I can do this.
I think as a next milestone, having everything under main and proving everything can build, the CI works, the end-to-end tests run, we can run a pipeline end-to-end from the front end with the latest KFP, everything from the main branch. That would be a good goal because everything is in there. We just need to make sure that, we merge the right things and we fix rough edges. We have a good documentation in the README. It's a little bit of polishing, but
Yep.
once we get there, I guess we'll start, hammering on those few issues. To clean up the repo and fix some of the UI glitches as well.
Yeah, the front end it still has some glitches that we need to work with and work out with this with Hannah and William later this. But this is a good plan. And as soon as we have this architectural document, we can figure out what will be the milestone. Just so everybody knows, we have a milestone here. Go from one of issues, and we are creating small issues, but here is everything that we started to create on those milestones. So William and Hannah, if you find any issue during that we don't cover on this first iteration, please create here for us to gather all the information here for us to figure out what's left for us to do the first release.
Sure, we can do that.
So
Yeah,
we
sure.
should roll them. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Heather.
Yeah, sorry. So we should write them into Kale 2.0, not in the main, and ask you to move if they need it. How are we going to handle this?
I think if you have the right permissions when you create a bug report here, you can mark. You can set the milestone.
Okay. No. My question was like if we should like mark directly the milestone, or if we should like create the bugs and then maybe send the links to the community channel to check if they are going to be or not in the milestone or not. That's my only question. It's more like administrative task than.
Yeah, I think it's for the bugs reports because everything that is on the main will be KO 2.0.
Okay.
I think it's easier to consider every bug that we found as a 2.0 because it will be the next release. Okay. And later on, if you feel we can postpone this one and release KO, either way, we just postpone for the next milestone and move that ticket. So I would say, if Stefan agreed, that by default, everything should be on this milestone.
Right. Okay. Yeah. When it's a bug, yes. When it's let's say a feature or an improvement or a chore, whatever, I think we can discuss and prioritize based on the size of that task.
Yeah, maybe the same for bugs. Maybe we will try to mark them like if they are completely blockers or major
Yep.
for the next release, and if they are minors or maybe that we can postpone, we will even try to do that analysis too and put it there.
Yep.
But then if you guys, Eder and Stefano, like have kind of an idea of a short-term roadmap, it would be great for us so we can also plan ahead our stuff to accommodate everything for this. But
And
for now,
Andrew, you're much better than us in this project planning, so you can help this with
of
us
course, I
as
can.
well. Yeah.
I can. Yes, for sure. I can. Maybe we can jump someday. Because probably Stefano, I'm going to send you an invite for a meeting. I want
All
to
right.
understand your vision about this, so
Okay.
I can help you on organizing the plan for the next steps.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is great. Like, just a quick question on the macro level. Like, when do you want to release the 2.0? Or there
Good
is no
question.
date
I
as
mean,
of
we
now?
haven't discussed the timeline
Yeah.
yet.
Okay. Okay.
It's I think we need to define what defines the 2.0, right? There, I
Yep.
think at least you wanted to have that pipeline visualizer baked in, but maybe we should define what is the aspiration there.
Yeah. When you define it together, I think even if we all agree that the first version is just to make KO work as usage work, but with keep Kubeflow, Jupyter 4 and V2, I think is a good starting point, and then we can break down in other releases, I think.
Mm-hmm. Any kind of thoughts on, like, I mean, I know there are a lot of work going on, but do you get a chance to submit the application so we can, just take it to the KSC and, just vote on this?
Not yet, because we are doing the cleanups in the repository
Okay. Yeah,
before.
just wondering, like, what are your thoughts, like, Stefano, do you want to like transfer this repo eventually, like, to the Kubeflow organization?
That would be ideal. Transferring the repo would allow us to maintain the Git history,
Yep.
mostly that actually.
ACLs, right, and all the things, right, we do in the repo.
Yeah. So before starting the application, we wanted to do some of the cleanup and give us another couple of weeks, and then maybe we can talk about what is required for us to start the application.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. Like, like as I think as we discussed, like giving customers, initial experience of simplifying pipeline creation from, Jupyter cells, like, right, and give them some short-term value, even that, we don't really think about the long-term consolidation with Lyra, Jupyter Scheduler, having some initially working, is, I think, super useful, right?
Yeah.
I think as soon as we have this baseline, that's my point of view.
Yep.
Should be the 2.0, like the first version that we're able to reproduce, because there were a lot of community engagement on KO. And then we have multiple paths and move for direction. Having pipeline visualization is one, have, for instance, integration in Kubeflow trainer to do the visualization, another one, and allow to people and manage the scheduled jobs, talking with the Lyra people to start the work on the Jupyter level for drag and drop and the pipelines. So there's a bunch of options that we can follow up in the roadmap in future, I think.
Yeah.
So I think sorry, go ahead.
Finish your point, sorry there.
No, I think that as soon as we have this baseline, we have a bunch of options to discuss in the community what should be our next goal.
Yep. One other thing that I kind of noticed that Kale is more kind of a slow snowflake-like experience compared to, what Lyra offering. Like, like for example, if you take a look at Snowflake, it has an ability for you to control cells. Like basically you can attach this kernels per cell, which usually not many people do within Jupyter community. And in a Snowflake experience, you can, have a cell for your Spark kernels, have a cell for your PyTorch kernels, and then it can, combine those things together. Since Kale also kind of interacting on a cell, cell extension, it looks like, more kind of this experience. I see, value of both of all of these things, right? Mhm. Yeah, I think this is great. Like again, super exciting to see this live, and definitely we should have something in our roadmap for this. All right, so I know we don't have a lot of time, so I really want to do anything else on this point. Just want to
No, I think I'm set.
Yeah. So I know we've been chatting a lot about bringing optimization tasks to the SDK. So I think we kind of like brainstorm a few ideas, and I think first of all, what we kind of agree before that on the last call, on the training call, I think that probably for us it would make sense to still use Khatib Experiment CRD, but introduce new API to the SDK. So what we want to do, we don't, because Khatib, like refactoring Khatib API will take a lot of time, but we want to give user kind of some sort of short-term value of, hyperparameter optimization. And maybe as a short-term task, what we can do, we can just bring these APIs directly to the SDK. So people can run, users can run hyperparameter optimization jobs within the Kubeflow SDK in the next releases. But one thing that we definitely should agree on the naming. And I know we kind of like propose a few naming, like what should be the new kind of CRD name and the client name. And I kind of like looking for like feedback from the community, especially for people who are, work with AI practitioners who know about, hyperparameter optimization, like what is the best name for the clients and what is the best name for, like to make it easier for, users to submit the hyperparameter tuning jobs. So kind of, I don't think we have time right now to talk about it, but right now I think we have like a few candidates like optimization job, sweep job, and search job, and we similar to this we can call optimizer client, and we can definitely think about designing the API to support hyperparameter optimization within this client. And the good thing for us, because we're already kind of supporting train job within Khatib API, it's already been kind of like there. So if we kind of had exposed this client to the end user, they already been if they installed existing Khatib control plane, they will already be able to optimize hyperparameters on the existing train jobs. So this is there, and for long term, we definitely need to think about whether we want to change the Khatib name, project name, and change the API. Yeah, so anyway, so I guess like definitely I will feel free to let me know if you want to get involved. Like I'm looking for like more suggestions here, and I'm also like brainstorm some of the ideas, and we can talk about next week as well, like whether it makes sense for us to rename the project. Same with the trainer for long term. So we provide more capabilities to the end user. The end goal kind of like provide a state-of-the-art API to do the parameter optimization in Kubernetes, right? So right now Kubernetes doesn't have support of this natively. So I think we have a good kind of opportunity for us to provide the standard for the community to perform optimization tasks, right? Similar to training tasks, distributed training tasks. All right, any last questions, comments before we jump to the call? All right, great. I think great discussion. Again, thanks everyone for working on this. It's super exciting to move this forward. I think, releasing SDK sometime next week will be super valuable for us. And let's see how we can, bring this initial value for the users. But I think eventually it has a really exciting roadmap moving forward. So really is would have like, one offer better experience for the Kubeflow users for the long term. So great initiatives. Thanks everyone. See you again next week. See you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.